fine. All right, let's get to the other side of the bracket. Let's talk about these Elite Eight games tomorrow. We have Gonzaga and USC. Fanta, how do you see this one playing out?
Okay, so I think that USC matches up well with Gonzaga. I think that Mobley is a true test to Drew Timme, and that's what makes this intriguing because Drew Timme's just been racking up numbers off bread and butter. It's too easy for him. You look up, he's 6 for 8. He's got 14 points. And when you combine that with either Suggs, Nembhard, or Ayayi doing anything for Gonzaga, the game's over. The game's over. So it is going to be on Evan Mobley to neutralize what Drew Timme is doing in this game, Rob, and to be the best big man. I mean, that to me is why USC matches up well with Gonzaga. USC needs Edey to be knocking down shots, several shots, and not have an off-shooting performance. And my goodness, everybody's talking about, or at least yesterday in the first half, everybody's talking about the scoring of Nembhard and Ayayi. That's important to me. But I said this to you last night. There is no more important player for me right now for Gonzaga than Jalen Suggs because the way that he runs a game is not that of a freshman. He makes extra plays. He has tremendous vision. You have got to contain Suggs and put the ball in the hands of Nembhard and Ayayi to do something else. Because if you let Suggs dictate the way the game's played, Gonzaga has too many weapons around him to lose. That's just a fact. So I think that USC has to find a way to unlock that dangerous, vital backcourt of Gonzaga that's so deep. They got guys coming off. Their third best guard would start and be the main player on anybody's team. And Gonzaga's got 3 of them. I think it starts with Suggs. For me, you got to cut off the head of the snake. I expect USC to cover it. Yes, I do. But I think Gonzaga will win.
I agree. I think really what it's going to come down to is whether or not Gonzaga can make outside jump shots. And that sounds really simplistic, but I think that's what it's going to end up being because USC is going to throw that zone at them, right? Like, so they have an assistant on their staff named Jason Hart, who was a point guard for Syracuse, who's really close with like the Syracuse program, really close with Jim Boeheim, and understands what you are trying to do out of a 2-3 zone. And he also understands that when you have a 7'1" center that can absolutely own the paint like Evan Mobley, when you have so much length and athleticism everywhere else on the floor, that going zone is generally the best thing to be able to do, especially when you want to play 2 bigs and you're not sure if you can match up with those 2 bigs if someone wants to go play small and space the floor out and try to match up on the perimeter. So that 2-3 zone is going to be a little bit of a problem. And Fanta, I don't know if you know this, but I do have a surprise guest that we're bringing in here real quick to help us down this game.
Sam
Vecenie!
Sam Vecenie. Let's go, Sam Vecenie. It's so good to see you.
Rob, I'm only here because Fanta's here. I'm not here because
I know. No one ever wants to talk to me. That's why I made sure that Fanta was on the stream. So we're talking a little bit about the way that Gonzaga can attack the USC zone. And you used to be a West Coast guy. Now, like you're like super, super, super West Coast in Australia
or East Coast.
But I still consider you one of my LA guys and one of my Pac-12 guys. So talk to me about the zone. Talk to me about Evan Mobley. I know you just did a big piece on him over at The Athletic. So break this down for me, man. How's Gonzaga going to break down the zone?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think they have a few different options because I'm a little bit worried about what Drew Timme is going to be able to do in the middle. He does, I don't want to say he's bad against length. I don't think he is, but he does have some issues at times finishing above length. And Evan's going to present a lot of problems there. Isaiah Mobley's also kind of a sneaky good post defender because he's really strong and physical. So I would imagine that what they do is that they try to have Isaiah body up with him and then have Evan coming over from the weak side to try and contest and just try and like double up. And then from there, it's going to be on Drew to try and hit them in rotation, right? If I was Gonzaga, I think what I would do is probably something similar to what happened in their most recent game against Creighton, where Creighton just kind of sagged off of guys like Joel Ayayi and Andrew Nembhard. I think that you're going to see USC probably do something pretty similar if I was Gonzaga, I would probably try to use Suggs a little bit more in the middle of that zone. And I'm assuming USC is going to zone because that's kind of what they've been doing recently. They'll play some man if like it's a missed shot and they have to scramble, but for the most part, they're going to try and sink back into that zone. So I think I'd try to use Suggs in the middle of it a little bit more to break down defenses, because I think Ayayi's handle can get a little bit high and he can get a little bit ripped. Andrew Nembhard is a good decision maker, and I think I would also flash him in and out of the zone with Suggs. It's going to be really interesting, though, because I think that what USC is going to do is they're going to force guys like Ayayi, Nembhard, and Suggs to make shots. And I think that they can do that, but it then just becomes a little bit more questionable about whether or not they're going to win the game, because it comes down to being like a make or miss kind of deal. And I feel like that's a little bit more tenuous for Gonzaga.
Yeah, that's how you increase the variance, right? That's how you say,
right,
look, we're not quite as talented, but we're going to turn this into a more or less a how many threes can you make versus how many times are we going to be able to get Isaiah Mobley isolated against like Andrew Nembhard 10 feet from the basket kind of a deal. Go ahead, Fanta.
Whereas Christian Bishop gets into foul trouble, Ryan Kalkbrenner's no match. Creighton couldn't rebound the basketball even off a Gonzaga miss. USC has the guys in the paint that can force a one-and-done possession, and that's why I thought the approach was right in forcing Ayayi into threes and saying, hey, we'll dare you to take it. When he cans 3 threes in the first 5 minutes of the game, pull out a Sharpie. The game's over because they've got so many threats on the floor, and if he's knocking down shots. So I'm with you, Sam. I think my biggest question to you, Sam, is I got a chance to watch Suggs in person this past weekend, and you've seen the tweets. You've seen him play, like things that you just do not see from a freshman. Does he remind you of anybody, Sam, from the past?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. No one really like springs to mind immediately, like a super powerful guard. Like he's a big dude. Like he's 6'4", 6'5", 200 pounds, something like that. Like he is strong. He is like the former football player. Like we all make jokes about it, but like that's a real deal, right?
Wait, he played football? No way. I've never seen that on a single Gonzaga broadcast. No idea he played football.
Yeah. So I think that like there's a little bit of that. Like he is strong. He can get to the basket. He's physical. He embraces contact, just plays right through it. And then on top of it, the vision is kind of what is the separator there, right? Like he's an unbelievable passer, especially in the full court, but he can make some half court reads that are kind of phenomenal. In terms of someone that's really a standout guy, like it's not Zach LaVine. Like I think he's a little bit he's a better passer than what Zach LaVine is. Like I'm trying to think of like a combo 1-2 guard who's like super powerful and physical.
Right. That's interesting that you mentioned Zach LaVine. Like that was never one that I put together with those two.
Well, I'm trying to think of like combo guard. You know what I mean? Like guy who handles a lot of point, initiates a lot of offense, but is like kind of almost like a 2 in terms of size.
That's why I asked you, because you've done these breakdowns and you do a terrific job with the NBA draft. But like you watch Suggs play, and it's just he gives you this vibe of, man, like that's unique. It's different from what we see in this sport.
Yeah, someone just said Stephon Marbury. That's an interesting one.
That is,
I think, actually. That's actually like
Goodman has always been pushing the Derrick Rose Derrick Rose narrative. I think Suggs has a chance to be a better shooter than Rose, and I think he's also a little bit of a better passer than Rose was. I can the explosiveness is there. Like I get it with the explosiveness.
His passing.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Yeah. Like Derrick Rose, that dude was like shot out of a cannon when he was young at all times. Like he was like Derrick Rose is maybe the most explosive dude that like I feel like I've ever watched on a basketball court.
Yeah, but
like,
he never
played. He won an MVP because he is so explosive.
Yeah, right.